our national anthem.
A video shows that 1960s America was broadcasting subliminal messages during the Star-Spangled Banner nightly station sign-off. And while it may have been a regional hoax, for those familiar with the history of television, it should be of no surprise. There are no admissions because it is officially considered to be unethical. The FCC declared subliminal messages in broadcasting contrary to the public interest. But there is no law banning subliminal messages in TV or advertising. Edward Bernays, the father of propaganda, was a pioneer in television advertising. He worked for several U.S. presidential administrations and wrote the book on how to manipulate the minds of the television audience. Every critical thinking person who lived through COVID knows how much power the TV screen has over its audience. It is a mind control device, and it is also physically unhealthy. It has been argued that television flicker rates can entrain the viewer's brainwaves and alter their mental states, which is definitely true to a certain extent. But a more prevalent problem has been revealed: blue LED light. For decades, there was only red and green LED. Blue LED was not achievable due to the crystallization properties of gallium nitride, the material needed for blue light emission. The development of the blue LED was a significant challenge and was ultimately accomplished by Japanese engineer Shuji Nakamura. This blue light breakthrough allowed for the creation of white LED light, which made it possible to create all colors with LED, which has now become the standard technology for televisions, mobile devices, and all lighting. The blue light emitted by LED is a frequency band of 400 to 500 nanometers. Exposure to this has been shown to suppress melatonin production, a hormone critical for sleep. Blue light exposure will shift brain activity away from relaxed theta-dominant states and towards heightened alert beta states. And so exposure in the evening will further complicate sleep patterns, which will negatively affect health in many ways. Prolonged exposure to blue light from flickering screens can cause eye strain symptoms, such as dryness, fatigue, and headaches. And studies have shown that blue light stresses retinal cells and can cause vision loss from macular degeneration. Screen time is not only mind controlling people, it is critically injuring them. But not all light is bad. We are now learning that red light is very healthy and highly beneficial. The red light emitted is a frequency band of 620 to 700 nanometers, and it has been shown to promote bone and tissue repair and regeneration. It reduces inflammation and body fat, and it alleviates chronic and acute pain. The main reason that red light improves overall health is because it enhances mitochondrial function throughout the entire body system. This leads to increased ATP production, reduced oxidative stress, and modulated cytokine activity. Whereas blue light disrupts sleep cycles and damages the eye's retinal cells, red light exposure before bed promotes relaxation, and red light therapy is being used to promote healthy retinal cells and improving visual function. Red light, used along with near-infrared light, which is a frequency band of 700 to 1100 nanometers, is shown to improve cognitive function and mood by enhancing cerebral blood flow and improving neuroplasticity. Limit your screen time to only what is necessary. Spend more free time in nature, and if interested, research the benefits of red light therapy. Greg Reese reporting.
For unique perspectives in Christian truth and one-of-a-kind Bible studies, please visit our website, truthhuntershow.com. Help us get around big tech censorship on YouTube, Facebook, and others by subscribing to our website. You can do so by entering your email address right here and click subscribe. Another option is click the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner, and you'll get a pop-up where you can enter your email address here and click subscribe. To support the work of the Truth Hunters, simply scroll down the page and you'll see ways that you can contribute by PayPal, Patreon, and Venmo. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody, and welcome. It is your host, your intrepid host, Doug Diamond, for the Diamond Report Live. Hope you guys are doing well. It is Memorial Day weekend, 10:07 p.m., 5:25. Boy, that's a lot of fives. 5:25. All right, hello and welcome, everyone. And yes, the Truth Hunters, we are waiting for you to subscribe. Please go do that. It is totally free, and you won't regret it. My good friend Lindley Oz is here in chat, so welcome again. She was here last week. Very cool of her to join us. And let's see what else we have going on tonight. We have lots of news to look at, as usual. Let's start out with, first of all, happy Memorial Day weekend. It's not just about the burgers and the cookouts and all that kind of stuff. Just in case you forgot why you have a 3-day weekend. This little image over here on screen right here. And then little boy and mother at the cemetery. So yes, very, very important to remember the reason we have the 3-day weekend. And just a little shout out here to my own father. This is him. It's not Christopher Reeve, although he looks exactly like Christopher Reeve, about that age. No, this is about 1942, probably. 1942, 1941. I'm not really sure exactly. John W. Diamond served in the Army Air Corps, which was the branch of the military that later became the Air Force. He was way older than my mother. He was old enough to be my grandfather, actually. But this is him, and he served in World War II and also the Korean War. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him. He's no longer with us. He has made the jump to hyperspace, as they say. So thank you, Dad, for all of your service and for all of you out there who have friends and family in the military. So, yes, blessings to you all. All right, let's take a look at the news. We've got, always a lot of stuff to look at. I actually didn't have anything on Hal's site tonight, so we'll skip by that. But we'll start with needtoknow.news, which is G. Edward Griffin's really great site. The big story, or one of the big stories this week, embassy staffers killed at Jewish Museum in D.C. AJ predicts more attacks as a pretext for war. Yes, of course, they want their war, don't they? And good old Netanyahu was most likely rubbing his hands together when we got word of this couple being gunned down in D.C. Sarah Lynn Milgram and Yaron Lashinsky, two Israeli embassy employees attending an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in D.C., were reportedly had been shot to death on May 21st. They're reported to be set to become engaged. Elias Rodriguez, a 30-year-old man from Chicago, and appears to be a far-left radical from a member of Antifa, has been arrested and charged for the killings. Yes, he was yelling "Free Palestine," apparently, in some of the footage I saw after he was apprehended. It is curious that out of all the people at the event, that two embassy staff were targeted. It is very curious. The court document filed by the FBI indicates that Rodriguez told officers on the scene of the shooting, "I did it for Palestine, I did it for Gaza, I am unarmed." He was recorded on video shouting "Free, free Palestine." The video of Rodriguez's arrest was clipped and does not show the beginning. There's no mention of video of the actual shooting at this time, which is curious, as cameras are ubiquitous. They are everywhere, and my guess is it's being hidden somewhere, or at least looked at very closely, right? AJ from InfoWars said that more attacks and civil unrest in America will undoubtedly increase following the shootings. Attacks can be used as a pretext for war. He said that he does not believe that this shooting was a false flag event, but that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu may launch a false flag to further victimize his nation, as it is being widely criticized for its actions in Palestine. So yes, this will probably result in the death of many, many hundreds or maybe thousands more in Gaza. So, pretext for war, that appears to be what this is. There are some video clips embedded here on this article, and we're going to look at that a little bit closer as well as we move forward tonight. I think I have a couple other tabs on this particular subject. Another article from the same site, Michael Yon investigates the trade war with China and its impact on the U.S. Michael Yon is a former Green Beret and America's most experienced war correspondent. Yes, I do like his work. I'm not sure if you guys follow him very much, but he's got a really good Substack, and he makes the rounds on some of the regular alt media type shows. He is currently in Panama investigating a trade war between the U.S. and China. He will report on its impact at the Red Pill Expo, apparently, that they're going to have, which is J. Edward Griffin's conference that they do. So pretty cool that he's a guest on that. And then, let's see, Trump stuns South Africa's president, Ramaphosa, plays the Kill the Boer clip in the Oval Office. We actually played some of that in the last week or two on this show. Leftists, along with the media, claim that the genocide of whites in South Africa, especially farmers, is a conspiracy. That's right. You're crazy. It's not happening. Activists in America have threatened violence against white refugees, claiming that they want to bring apartheid to the U.S. On Wednesday, Trump hosted South African President Ramaphosa in the White House, and when a reporter inquired about why Trump admitted white South Africans as refugees, Trump played a video featuring the Julius Malema, leader of the EFF party, who is singing the song "Kill the Farmer, Kill the Boer." The Boer is the white farmer in South Africa, who, by the way, is providing much of the food that they're all eating. So what happens when you kill all the farmers? I think you tend to get a little bit hungry. We'll see what happens, though. It says, in a stadium with thousands of people, they were chanting, "Kill the farmer, kill the Boer." A clip of a mass grave with 1,000 crosses that Trump said were murdered farmers was also shown. Yeah, that was shown, and then the president, who was sitting right there, who was quite embarrassed, you could tell, that Trump even brought this up and showed the video and played the clips and had the news headlines there to show him, said, well, we can't really verify that that's exactly part of our country, and we're not sure that it is, and so on and so forth. South Africa's Deputy President Paul Mashaltile asked white farmers to please stay. South Africa's neighbor Zimbabwe fought a civil war, and the new government passed the Zimbabwean Land Acquisition Act in 1992 to expropriate land from white farmers, which led to the immigration of the farmers. Zimbabwe faced massive food shortages, starvation, and its infrastructure collapsed. Seems to be the same path that South Africa itself is headed for, doesn't it? Brandon Smith wrote, if even a handful of white farmers from South Africa are able to come to the U.S. and succeed, it will encourage thousands more to leave the country. South Africa will then lose a large portion of its most productive citizens. The last vestiges of civil stability will disappear, and South Africa will collapse. Very sad. And I've mentioned before, I have been to South Africa years and years ago, 2008, I think it was. And it's an unbelievably beautiful country. But yeah, the racism there is real. So anyway, we'll see where this goes, but it's not looking good for South Africa in general, especially if all the white farmers decide it's too dangerous to live there. And obviously some of them are. All right, and then this article from needtoknow.news, several articles from this site tonight. I worked at Palantir, the tech company that is reshaping reality. A former Palantir employee is sounding the alarm as the company is an invasive and lethal technology that is a tool of war. Palantir was founded by Peter Thiel, who claims it can revolutionize government systems with its AI-powered software. Palantir has been hired by the Department of Defense, the FBI, ICE, and even Wendy's. It's used by the HHS to manage Medicare and Medicaid data. Palantir has contracts with the IRS going through taxpayer data to save auditors time by finding the easiest audits to pursue. Palantir capitalizes on fear and unrest to make money. Sounds like a perfect fit for the U.S. government, doesn't it? There's evidence that Israel used Palantir to choose its targets for bombs in Gaza. Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, said, Palantir is here to disrupt and make the institutions we partner with the very best in the world, and when it's necessary, to scare enemies, and on occasion, kill them. Yes, so it's a wonderful family company here, I guess. Palantir. Thought that was kind of interesting. That's on needtoknow.news. House passes multi-trillion-dollar big, beautiful bill. Rep. Massey explains why it is a catastrophe. Thomas Massey, I think, is one of the very, very, very few fiscal conservatives in Congress. And he's also one of the very few not owned by Israel. So I think it's important to listen to what he says. Representative Massey said that the Republican Big Beautiful Bill increases spending and adds about $300 billion of new spending. He warned that the debt will rise to $50 trillion in 10 years. U.S. Treasury bond markets were affected, and the rate is now risen from 5% on a 30-year note. Massey said that repealing the Green New Deal funding could have provided a substantial savings, but it won't be done until Trump is out of office, leaving time to undo it. He said that the Democrats don't even need to win the next two elections to undo it because an army of lobbyists will pressure Congress and a few Republicans will cave in. He emphasized that phone calls from constituents matter to congressmen. Massey explained that rescissions can be used to undo spending commitments that were passed in the recent continuing bill resolution with 51 votes in the Senate. However, he said that House Speaker Johnson may be blocking the request for rescissions from the White House. Yes, we all know Mike Johnson is, he's very squishy, isn't it? He's not really very dependable in this whole situation, but yeah, we'll see. Again, we'll see where it goes, but it's not looking too good on the old big, beautiful bill. I guess they apparently pulled all the Doge stuff out of it as well. So the Doge cuts, they were being considered for this, and now they're no longer. So isn't that nice? Hopefully they will be re-added at some point in an additional piece of legislation, so we'll see. I know Byron Donaldson was talking about doing that. All right, needtoknow.news, one more article on here. Democrat Congresswoman LaMonica McIver charged over Newark ICE detention center protest. We mentioned this back when it happened a week or two ago. New Jersey U.S. Attorney Alina Habba announced that she is charging Democrat U.S. Representative LaMonica McIver with assaulting, impeding, and interfering with law enforcement while protesting at Delaney Hall, the ICE detention facility. We watched it on video a couple weeks ago. Video appears to show LaMonica to scream at law enforcement officers and body slam one of them. Yeah, it was one of the female officers. And she's a big girl, too. Fellow Congress members Robert Menendez Jr. and Bonnie Watson Coleman, who are also part of the protest, have not been charged with anything at this time. Newark Mayor Baraka was arrested on the day, or the chaotic protest, on May 8th, and was charged with trespassing after he allegedly ignored warnings from federal officials to leave the premises. The misdemeanor charge has been dismissed. Habba has invited the mayor to tour Delaney Hall with her. Reports indicate that LaMonica McIver helped incite the chaotic situation. Yeah, and I think there have been some calls for her to be expelled from Congress. So again, that is what should happen. That is what would typically happen if you were a Republican or conservative trying these things, which of course they wouldn't, but even if they did, they would be expelled. But she's a Democrat and therefore above the law, and it's okay when she does it. That's apparently the way it works. Technocracy.news, a couple articles from there. This one's on smart cities. Nationwide police are embracing facial recognition tech. So this is actually a Leo Hohmann article, but it's on technocracy.news. The full article is embedded here for the moment, although it will go behind a paywall, I think, in a few days. However, they still have this little, you wouldn't really call it a glitch, but this little thing here with the listen to this article now button, so you can listen to the audio version of this article. So even if the article itself goes behind the paywall, typically you can still hear the whole thing if you just press play here on the article. Little bug in their system they haven't exactly noticed yet. There are only 109,000 towns and cities in America, including just over 19,000 being formally incorporated. If you were a billionaire technocrat, you could mount a flash marketing program to sell them facial recognition systems, couldn't you? That would be child's play. The problem is the ignorance of city employees who welcome these charlatans into their chambers. There's a sucker born every minute. Yes. Police in cities across America want to deploy AI-driven facial recognition technology that's capable of tracking and identifying every human being who enters public spaces in real time. So isn't that lovely? So this is smart cities, and the police are embracing the facial recognition software, which of course now is AI-driven. So they're being allowed to do that, and apparently it's being used all over the place at this point, or it will be very soon. So this article kind of looks into that a little bit deeper. It's on technocracy.news. One more from this site. Technocrats try to hamstring states' hands off AI for 10 years. Technocrats have apparently snuck into Congress and put a clause into the budget bill to ban states from regulating AI for the next 10 years. This is Trump's big, beautiful bill. I've been warning for years that we should kick all technocrats out of policymaking positions. They can't get away with this, and you should demand that your Congress vote this into oblivion. And read the bill from the top to the bottom before the final vote. This is from the editor of this website, Patrick Wood, who we had on a couple different times, 2 or 3 different times on Lost Arts Radio. So, yeah, this is kind of interesting where this is headed. The amendment would empower the likes of Bill Gates and Sam Altman, Musk and Zuckerberg, and the Saudis and other technocrat billionaires to run roughshod over Americans' privacy and civil liberties. AI is going to cause more upheaval in society over the next few years than perhaps any other technology the world has ever seen. But if President Trump's big, beautiful bill, if the budget bill gets passed, which it has been passed in the House, in the version preferred by a group of House Republicans, the federal takeover of this technology will be complete, opening up a free-for-all for big tech to weaponize it against everyday Americans. So that is not good news. Anyway, that's available for consumption here on technocracy.news. It's a very good site. And then a couple articles from the Liberty Beacon as well. I thought this one was kind of interesting. I did not hear about this earlier. Apparently it just happened, I guess, in the last day or two. Putin's helicopter caught in a Ukrainian drone swarm. How about that? The helicopter carrying Russian President Putin was caught in the epicenter of a massive Ukrainian drone attack while the president was visiting Kursk earlier this week. So Putin traveled to Russia's Kursk region on Tuesday for the first time since it was fully liberated from Ukrainian forces in April. During his trip, the president met with the governor as well as the heads of local municipalities and volunteers who have been helping those affected by the now repulsed Ukrainian incursion, according to the Kremlin. I was looking to see how many, says Kiev launched an unprecedented UAV assault on the region when the president was there, with Russian air defenses destroying 46 incoming fixed-wing UAVs. So 46 drones. So that's pretty wild. I would like to stress the fact that the intensity of the attacks during the flight of the Supreme Commander-in-Chief's aircraft over the territory of the Kursk region increased significantly. So he was in the air at the time, and I guess got to watch it out the window, but apparently he wasn't in too much danger. So anyway, that's pretty interesting, huh? Thousands of bikers join Rolling to Remember in D.C., honoring military heroes. So this is in remembrance here for Memorial Day. Thousands of bikers from across the country are riding from the Pentagon through Washington, D.C. on Sunday, so today, for the annual Rolling to Remember motorcycle ride honoring fallen service members. So here's a video here. If you guys want to watch it, it's available on YouTube. Thought that was kind of neat. I didn't realize they did that, but the bikers come up with some interesting things sometimes. And then this one, Catherine Austin Fitts on land grabs, the evils of CBDC and fighting tyranny. She's one of the few people I think out there who are really connecting all the different dots together with CBDCs and everything that goes along with that. So I think she's definitely a good person to listen to. This is a Zero Hedge article that's part of this Liberty Beacon website. Investment banker Catherine Austin Fitz sat down for a wide-ranging interview in which she warned about the future of food security, digital financial surveillance via central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and fighting back against the most invasive form of tyranny that's ever existed. So yes, that is where it's headed. Her Solari report. And there's a video embedded here, probably that interview. And then food, not gold, as the ultimate asset. So yes, lots of people pushing gold, but to me, I think food is probably even more important because gold isn't really that tasty, I don't think. Neither is silver. Not that you can't buy food with that, but most people can afford food and not so much afford gold. That's what I found. Then this one as well from the same site. Oh, Canada. Tesla's banned from the International Car Show. Of course, because they are Musk's company, right? The organizers are just the latest group to join the mob retaliating against Musk for working with the Trump administration. If you go see the Vancouver International Auto Show, you can see all the new models. However, if you want to see the new Teslas, you must go down the road to check out a car without a political litmus test. The organizers are just the latest group to join the mob retaliating against Musk for working with Trump to remove the waste and fraud in government through Doge. What was most striking was the pathetic rationalization of the organization for engaging in political retaliation. According to the Canadian auto dealer, the organizers claimed a common rationalization for political discrimination. They're calling it security. As we have seen on college campuses for years where conservative speakers are barred due to security concerns. Pretty convenient, huh? The Canadians claim that they could not protect innocent parties if a single Tesla was allowed on the floor, because they know how crazy the people on the left are. Furthermore, they blame Tesla, insisting the company was given multiple opportunities for voluntary withdrawal. In other words, we only canceled Musk when he refused to cancel himself. How dare him? Yeah, anyway, that is not all that surprising, but we have reached the end of May here, and Elon is going back to work for his companies and not so much in D.C. Personally, from what I gather, I think he's pretty sick and tired of the whole thing and wants to get away from politics, and I don't blame him. So anyway, that is a Liberty Beacon article. Then a couple articles from Revolver.news. Just when you thought Team Biden and CNN couldn't sink any lower, this happens. They told us Biden had a childhood stutter, quote unquote. They told us he was sharp as a tack, lucid, and a fully in-command grandfatherly type. They told us that questioning his mental fitness was dangerous disinformation and bullying. And now, after years of pushing North Korea-style propaganda, the entire corporate media complex is pretending to be shocked that Joe Biden can't form a sentence on his own. They're replaying clips of him stammering and wandering around a 6-foot stage, totally lost, just like they woke up from a coma and missed the last 6 years. Sorry, CNN, but we remember everything. Right-wing outlets were reporting on Biden's decline almost daily. This is not news. It's damage control. Legacy media is scrambling to rebuild their reputations after selling their souls to Team Biden and refusing to cover the biggest story in the world. The President of the United States is a lumbering zombie who could barely remember his own name. Yeah, and he wasn't even the real President of the United States, was he? But I digress. Joe's cognitive issues weren't random gaffes that popped up once in a while. It was a daily train wreck, and the media acted like nothing was wrong. That was their biggest and most shameless fake news stunt to date. Here are 98 seconds of Biden completely losing his train of thought, and this doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of how embarrassing his time in office has been. Do we really need to see it? Here's 98 seconds of Joe Biden losing his train of thought back in 2022. Why the H hasn't he been removed from office yet? I think I'll spare you guys the listening. We all know, don't we? We all know. Imagine living in a country where the media is so corrupt and so shamelessly partisan they refuse to report on a sitting president's full-blown dementia vibes. Yeah, and they're after all of this is going on with Biden, and all of this has come out supposedly, and they're all pretending like they didn't know about it. Now they're saying that, oh, it's Trump who needs to be examined, that he is the one that's mentally unfit. Meanwhile, he's working like 22-hour days and doing like 10 or 20 news conferences every single day and running rings around all these people. And yeah, he's the guy who has the problem, apparently. Welcome to the United States of America, where the media isn't free. It's bought and paid for by the Democrat Party. And speaking of Dem-run media, CNN has dropped a doozy of a story that confirms everything we already knew. It turns out Team Biden spent millions of dollars producing a fake town hall. That's right, a completely staged event rigged with all the bells and whistles just to try and make Biden look like a competent leader. But here's the kicker. They failed miserably because the footage was so unusable, they couldn't even release it. That's how mentally gone Joe was. So anyway, it goes on a little bit more after that. Some more videos embedded. I thought that was pretty well written and all 100% true. It's on revolver.news. And not that I'm a Republican supporter, it's just that the Democrats are so much more evil. The Republicans just sort of roll over and go along with them. They're not particularly evil for the most part, from what I gather. But the Democrats sure are. They have cornered the market in evil, I think. What the viral Trump South Africa Oval Office moment didn't show you. We mentioned this a little bit ago. President Trump just did something no other U.S. leader has the guts to do, sitting face-to-face with South African President Ramaphosa in the Oval Office. With the press watching, Trump turned the spotlight on one of the most ignored human rights crises in the world, the violent targeting of white farmers in South Africa. So yeah, that's what this article is about, how he basically, went almost like InfoWars on him. He had the articles, he was handing the articles literally to the president there and playing the video clips, and he just played dumb. The president of South Africa just played dumb, like he had no idea, and no, they didn't really mean that. No, they weren't really trying to kill all of white farmers, and it just wasn't happening. You're crazy. So yes, and the media, of course, went right along with it. So all of the clips are here embedded in this article. If you guys missed all that, it's certainly worth watching. It's on revolver.news. And then this one too, gbnews.com. Donald Trump sends free speech team to meet British pro-life activists who were arrested for praying silently outside abortion clinics. We reported on this when it was happening a couple different times over there. Donald Trump has sent a team of U.S. officials to the UK to investigate concerns over freedom of speech restrictions. Yes, they don't have that anymore over there, do they? Particularly regarding pro-life activists who have been arrested for silent protests outside abortion clinics. A 5-person team from the U.S. State Department spent several days in Britain interviewing campaigners to report back to the White House. The fact-finding mission was launched after Washington became concerned about the erosion of free speech in the UK. Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. The diplomats from the U.S. Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor traveled to London in March to affirm the importance of freedom of expression in the UK and across Europe. Personally, I think old KC3 is done with free speech over there, don't you? The delegation was led by Sam Sampson, a senior advisor in the State Department. During the visit, U.S. team met with 5 British activists who had been arrested for silently praying outside abortion clinics across the country. U.S. officials met with these different people. Isabel Spruce is the one that we reported on before, who was literally like down the street, around the corner a little ways, standing there praying, and the police came and talked to her and basically arrested her for doing that. And this other lady here was a 74-year-old grandmother, which has become a particularly notable case. So you can see some photos here. So anyway, Trump's trying to do something, although I'm not so sure that it will matter, because probably what will happen is they went to interview all those people, and they'll just arrest them again if they try it again. That's my guess. I don't think anything will change. And then, of course, we have the ADL. ADL's David Goldenberg demands mass censorship of social media, deplatforming, and the repeal of Section 230 in response to the shooting of 2 Israeli embassy aides in D.C. Isn't that nice? It's just very convenient, isn't it? These tech platforms are not guaranteed under the Constitution, Goldenberg says. They're just not. I think what he means is free speech is just not guaranteed under the Constitution. It's just not.
Yeah, I would say, look, I can speak specifically from an ADL perspective. ADL Center for Technology and Society has done significant studies in the responsiveness of tech platforms, and we've actually graded them on their responsiveness of anti-Semitism, Holocaust denial, other forms of hate. You know, you have a platform like Meta that just gutted its entire fact-checking department, and they're moving away from it. And so what we need to do is we need to apply pressure in a real significant way on tech platforms that they have a responsibility, that they have a absolute responsibility to check and remove hateful speech that is insightful, not insightful with an S, but insightful with a C. Right? And so we need to do that. Congress, there's a role for federal regulators to play. And there's also a role that states can even play too. And we've seen that in places like California and others. You hold them accountable. Like right now, tech platforms are not accountable for having misinformation. Was it share Section 230 of the National Communications Act, or the Federal Communications Act? Congress needs to amend Section 230, which provides immunity to tech platforms right now for what happens. Right? If you listen to what Mark Zuckerberg said, for example, when he testified before Congress, he was like, listen, if you called 20 years ago or 30 years ago, if you called somebody to to issue a bomb threat, you didn't sue the bells. They were just the platform through which, the conduit through which, or the platform through which, you know, the person made the threat. I'm not responsible for the threat, right? These tech platforms are not guaranteed under the Constitution. They're just not. They're private companies. They can use their user agreements to kick people off, to deplatform. They did. And then we've seen in the last few years when Elon Musk bought X, right, the deplatforming of people. You saw Facebook and Meta that changed their policies, right, the deplatforming of the replatforming, of people, right? So Congress could amend that act and actually hold tech platforms accountable. And I guarantee you, look what's happening right now on college campuses. Universities are being held accountable for the anti-Semitism on campus, and what are they doing? They're changing. Accountability is a tool that can be incredibly effective in changing behavior. But right now, they're not accountable.
There you go. Just what we thought, huh? Yep, it was only Elon Musk who was deplatforming people, not the rest of big tech. No, not at all. Facebook has never deplatformed anybody. YouTube has never deplatformed anybody. And they should start, though, if you begin to criticize Israel, then they should start, according to these guys. I don't think so. Anyway, that is an X post here. So I thought that was very interesting. Yep, that does seem to be where it's going, especially with the two Israelis who were just recently shot to death in D.C. So hopefully that won't be what happens, but my guess is they will use that as long as they can. L.A. Deputy Mayor pleads guilty to calling in a fake anti-Israel bomb threat. Yes, I said the L.A. Deputy Mayor is calling in fake anti-Israel bomb threats. Lovely. Brian Williams, who was charged by federal prosecutors on Thursday, faces up to 10 years in federal prison. Yes, but it is California we're talking about, so there is basically no chance that that will happen. The Center Square, L.A.'s Deputy Mayor for Public Safety has pled guilty to calling in a fake anti-Israel bomb threat to himself in October. Brian Williams, who was charged by federal prosecutors on Thursday, faces up to 10 years in federal prison. Mayor Karen Bass, you know that name, right, from the Los Angeles fires, announced in December that Williams had been put on administrative leave, meaning that he likely has been collecting his $245,000 salary with benefits without any actual official duties. As Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, Williams would have overseen the city's fire and police response during the devastating January wildfires, which that is Karen Bass's, that was her gig, right? She was supposed to handle that, and of course, she just let L.A. burn. The Department of Justice reports that during an online government meeting, Williams used his personal cell phone's Google Voice app to call his city cell phone and then left the meeting and placed a call to the Los Angeles Public Department saying he received a call from an unknown man, meaning himself, with a threat to bomb Los Angeles City Hall. Wow. Williams received no such call, and he made the bomb threat himself, quote unquote, wrote the DOJ. So you know it's bad when their own Department of Justice catches the guy and basically calls him out on it. So I just thought that was kind of funny. Breaking: D.C. Free Palestine shooting suspect charged with first-degree murder praised you-know-who Luigi Mangione, posted Death to America report. So this guy probably is on his way to becoming the next Luigi Mangione, start getting all of the love letters and proposals of marriage and all that stuff, just like Luigi here has, from the radical, wacko leftists who are going to love what this guy did, and says violence does not have to happen in America, but if it does, then it should, the account wrote in a post. Well, maybe not. The man accused of shooting a couple from the Israeli embassy in Washington this week reportedly posted praise for Luigi and wrote Death to America, as well as I voted for Hamas on social media. He's been charged with first-degree murder in the case. So, man, this is crazy. So this is, and it's got a Dan Bongino update here too. I have a few updates on last night's shooting that I want to share with you. In the interest of transparency, out of respect for the investigation, the charges being aggressively pursued, we are limited in what we can immediately say. Want to share as much as possible. Anyway, he wrote that regarding the investigation into Rodriguez, that authorities were trying to authenticate writings. The FBI is aware of certain writings allegedly authored by the suspect. We hope to have updates as to the authenticity very soon. Authorities said that Rodriguez was seen outside the Jewish Museum in Washington and then approached a group, shooting the couple at point-blank range. Yeah, it was... I've heard a few accounts of exactly what happened. That was like execution-style murders. I mean, unbelievable. So it appears that he targeted this couple. Anyway, we'll see where that goes. Foreign globalists upset that you have untraceable cash in your pocket. I saw the headline and I'm like, okay, that has to be Karsten's. And indeed it is. This guy who looks like the newer version of Jabba the Hutt. The war on cash isn't about convenience, it's about control. And the people leading the charge aren't freedom-loving innovators, they're smug, bloated globalists like Augustin Karstens, this guy, who works for the Bank of International Settlements, if you didn't already know. These unelected elites want to replace physical currency with programmable, traceable, fully centralized digital money. Why? Because cash keeps you free. And freedom is the one thing that they cannot afford you to have. And just like that, another mask slips. Watch this UN official casually admit how they bribe big industry into ditching cash and pushing full digital control.
We have to achieve the SDGs in 10 years. I'm going to talk about that, but with a quick introduction to the Better Than Cash Alliance. We're hosted by the United Nations, and we are an alliance of governments and companies and international organizations that are each committed, each has to commit before they join the alliance to moving away from cash to some form of digital option. We've got to solve this problem. And we have to solve it because we care about achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Did you know that every single government in the world has committed to these? Every single government to agree to these. The government of Norway, the government of Australia, the government of Ethiopia, the government of Rwanda. And the timeline is 10 years from now.
Yeah, they didn't agree because they all loved it and wanted to. They agreed because they were told they had to. And if they don't, all of their funding will be cut off. So they were coerced. They were forced into it, just like all the jabs, just like everything else. Another case in point, Mr. Augustin Karstens. Who is he? He's a Mexican economist who's been the general manager of the Bank for International Settlements, BIS, since 2017. Before that, he served as governor of the Bank of Mexico. Well, he's large enough he could actually have been the Bank of Mexico. I don't know if you've seen him. In short, he's a deeply embedded globalist insider, and he really doesn't want to live in a cash society. Well, Because Mr. Carson's, as he puts it, he wants to know what you're spending and purchasing, and if he can't do that, he cannot do that if you're using cash. So here he is here. Yeah, and I saw, was it Susan? Somebody in the, in chat says he has an untraceable lack of a neck. And you can see here, no neck. Where'd it go?
Our analysis on CBDC, in particular for the use of general use, we tend to establish the equivalence with cash. And there is a huge difference there. For example, in cash, we don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central bank liability. And also, we will have the technology to enforce that. Those two issues are extremely important, and that makes a huge difference with respect to what cash is.
I wonder if you can use CBDCs at El Pollo Loco, you think? I don't know. But I would think he would be very concerned about that. Sorry, that's enough fat jokes, but I can't help it. This guy is huge. Anyways, yeah, so it's not looking good, but yeah, the CBDCs are definitely on the horizon, I'm afraid, unfortunately. And then this one from Revolver. Trump just cleared violent illegals off of Minnesota's streets, but Tim Walz is calling that tyranny. There he is doing his Richard Simmons impersonation. He was doing that during the campaign as well. At a time when Minnesotans should be thanking their lucky stars for the violent criminal illegals who are no longer trolling their streets, Governor Walz decided to spit in the face of law and order and mock the very people he was elected to serve. In a wildly tone-deaf commencement speech at University of Minnesota's law school, Walz launched into a deranged rant about Trump, accusing him of being a tyrant for doing exactly what the American people elected him to do: secure the wide-open border and enforce the law.
Donald Trump's modern-day Gestapo is scooping folks up off the streets. They're in unmarked vans, wearing masks, being shipped off to foreign torture dungeons. No chance to mount a defense, not even a chance to kiss a loved one goodbye, just grabbed up by masked agents, shoved into those vans, and disappeared. To be clear, there's no way for us to know whether they were actually criminals or not, because they refused to give them a trial. We're supposed to just take their word for it. And when duly elected members of Congress tried to exercise their constitutional right of oversight at an ICE facility, they get shoved around and threatened with arrest. And when courts told them repeatedly to knock it off, they brazenly defy them.
And every word out of his mouth is a lie. Total lie. Anyway, yeah. But what was Tampon Tim not mentioning was that the violent criminals and Trump's policies have removed from Walz's own backyard. Here's what Walz apparently considers tyranny: taking violent, predatory criminals, many who target innocent children, off of the streets in Minnesota. These aren't policy debates. These are criminals. Real predators with real victims who never should have been here in the first place. But thanks to Trump's so-called tyrant immigration agenda, these scumbags are no longer roaming the streets of Minnesota. Well, at least some of them aren't. If Walz had his way, these predators would still be walking free in Minnesota, but because of the very immigration enforcement he's now frantically smearing, they are gone. So anyway, quite a few videos embedded here, and some more interesting tidbits of info on that Revolver article. Again, we'll link to all these articles in the Substack post, so make sure you're on the list if you're not already. diamonddisc.substack.com in the upper right corner up there in the black box. Feel free to join, totally free. And then, let's see, Information Liberation headlines: ADL demands mass censorship, police crackdown on anti-Israel protests in the wake of the D.C. shooting. So they are going to milk this thing for all it's worth. And they are totally fine with Israelis being slaughtered, being murdered. It's okay as long as it fits their agenda. And it's a bonus that they were Christians, you see. They were actually believers in Jesus Christ, even though they were Israelis. At least that's reportedly what the story was. And Netanyahu and company, the ADL, are okay with it because it helps their position. The Anti-Defamation League, which it should be called the Defamation League, responded to the shooting of 2 Israeli embassy aides in D.C. by demanding mass censorship, deplatforming, and repeal of Section 230 and police crackdown on anti-Israel protests. We just watched the clip. It's exactly what happened. ADL responds to D.C. shooting with call to deplatform Twitch streamer Hassan Piker. So they're going after this Twitch guy. I'm guessing he's probably a gamer, although I don't know for sure. Rep. Randy Fine says pro-Palestine movements are demons who must be put down by any means necessary. Isn't that lovely? Newly elected Florida Rep. Randy Fine, who could be Karsten's little brother, maybe, was rushed to blame Muslim terror, quote unquote, for the shooting of 2 Israeli embassy aides in D.C. on Wednesday night, and declared that the pro-Palestinian movement are demons who must be put down by any means necessary. Israeli PM Netanyahu, Trump told me, quote, I have absolute commitment to you. So that's according to this article. So let's see what this is about. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said Wednesday that there is no rift between the U.S. and Israel, and revealed that Trump pledged, I have absolute commitment to you, in a recent phone call. So that's Bibi's words. Who knows if it's true? That doesn't sound too good, though, does it? Trump confronts South African president on white genocide. We mentioned that earlier. CNN says U.S. officials say Israel preparing possible strike on Iran. So again, back to the Israelis who were just killed. They could use that somehow. Trying to tie what happened with the murderer, if they can tie that to Iran somehow. I don't know. Hopefully that won't happen, but I can see where they might try that. Trump, after rearming Israel, frustrated with Netanyahu for expanding war. So there's lots of reports here of him supporting and not supporting Israel. I tend to think that right now he's very frustrated with and does not particularly care for Netanyahu and company. However, we'll see what actually happens because it's really hard to say. We know how much sway they have over everyone in Congress. All right, so last week I mentioned, well, there were no plane crashes, no accidents. And guess what we have this week? Plane crashes, accidents. 2 dead after private jet crashes into San Diego neighborhood. Now, this is the picture here. Look very closely at this picture. Can you see it? What do you not see in this picture? I don't see a plane. I don't see a plane. Where's the plane? Did they already haul it out? I see a bunch of fried cars and the whole corner of the house is burned up. Where's the plane? At least 2 people were killed and 8 others injured after a private jet crashed into a California military neighborhood early Thursday morning. The crash destroyed one home and set several others on fire. San Diego Fire Rescue Department Assistant Chief said during a Thursday afternoon press conference. Multiple cars along the street were set on fire. You can see that. He noted that the neighborhood was a military housing area in Murphy Canyon and that all residents were evacuated. Maps show the military neighborhood situated less than 3 miles east of the Montgomery Gibbs Executive Airport. Victims' injuries range from smoke inhalation to wounds received jumping through a window to escape a fire. So, I don't have any doubt that that's all the case. Let's see what further facts are here. What have federal investigators said? A Cessna 550 crashed near Montgomery Gibbs Airport just before 4 a.m. local time. There were 6 people aboard, according to the FAA. The NTSB will lead the investigation and give further details in the statement and they confirmed to this website World that it was currently investigating the crash and updates would be shared at future media briefings. So we'll tell you later is what they said, but I still do not see the plane. Where's the plane? I don't know. Very strange. Anyway, that's on the SIFT, which is part of WNG.org. So anyway, have a look at that. A couple articles from RT. U.S. de facto financing persecution of Christians in Ukraine, according to Tucker Carlson, very few Americans understand the degree to which Kiev oppresses the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, according to the journalist, meaning Carlson. The U.S. is essentially facilitating the persecution of Christians in Ukraine by supporting the Kiev government, which has been waging a purge campaign against the nation's canonical Orthodox Church, American journalist Tucker Carlson has said. Carlson made the statement during an interview with Ukrainian MP Vadim Novinsky, released on Friday. Every day, churches and temples are seized by soldiers with machine guns who come in, throw out priests, beat believers, children, old people, women, the former lawmaker stated, adding that it is happening all over Ukraine. I think very few Americans understand the degree to which the Ukrainian government under Zelensky has persecuted the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, Carlson said. So, yeah. Anyway, I don't know if you guys knew about that either, but that is not looking too good. U.S. government agencies appropriated a total of $182.8 billion on various forms of assistance to Kiev between 22 and 24, according to Ukraine Oversight, an official portal that tracks such expenditures. Last week, Trump stated that he was concerned that billions of dollars were being wasted on aid to Ukraine. He said Congress was very upset about it and that lawmakers were asking where all the money was going. Well, obviously, it's going into the bigwigs' pockets over there. They're literally buying houses, mansions in Switzerland and other places. That's all come out. Last year, Zelensky signed legislation allowing the state to ban religious organizations affiliated with governments that Kiev deems, quote, aggressors, which effectively targets the UOC, so the Ukraine Orthodox Church. So, yes, they are having war, apparently, in Kiev, but they're just having war against the church, according to what's being reported there by Carlson. And then I thought this one was weird. This is, back to the whole Putin thing with the Ukrainian drone swarm. Trump claims Putin has gone absolutely crazy for no reason. The Russian leader's helicopters reportedly caught in a Ukrainian drone swarm earlier this week. So I was trying to figure out what was going on here, because this is not typically something that he would just jump to conclusions on. It says Trump has claimed that Moscow targeted Ukraine for no reason whatsoever after Russia launched a series of missile strikes against military targets in Kiev and other locations following a week of nightly Ukrainian drone raids involving hundreds of UAVs across multiple Russian regions. Is Putin just supposed to take it? Is he supposed to let it happen? Ukraine significantly intensified its drone attacks inside Russia last week, with at least 764 drones intercepted over Russian territory between Tuesday and Friday, and hundreds more destroyed over the weekend. Probably funded by us, I'm guessing. The helicopter carrying Russian President Vladimir Putin was reportedly caught in the epicenter of a massive drone raid while he was visiting the Kursk region on Tuesday. I mentioned it a little bit ago. In response, the Russian military conducted a major strike against a drone and missile production plant in Kiev on Saturday, followed by an additional reported strikes on Ukrainian military facilities today. Speaking to journalists on today, Trump claimed Russia's response was unwarranted and said he was, quote, surprised by what he was seeing. I'm not happy with what Putin's doing, he said. We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all. We'll see what I'm going to do. I've always had a very good relationship with Putin of Russia, but something has happened to him. He has gone absolutely crazy, Trump added in a post on Truth Social, claiming that missiles and drones are being shot into cities in Ukraine for no reason whatsoever. See, this whole thing seems really suspicious to me, because again, what is Putin supposed to do? He's just supposed to sit back and take it and allow his country to be attacked over and over and over again by Ukraine and not respond? Trump also criticized Zelensky in an apparent reference to his remarks about Washington's, quote, silence in response to the latest Russian attacks. but they're attacking because Kiev, meaning the Ukrainians, attacked Russia. So I guess that's a little detail we're supposed to ignore and forget. And again, it's okay when they do it. I don't know. Okay, and then Daily Mail article. Thought this one was kind of odd. Chaos as biblical plague of cannibal crickets invades U.S. state, creating death trap conditions. So, have you guys noticed the cannibal crickets? Utah. So for my friends in Utah, you know who you are. Utah is under siege from a rapidly spreading infestation of Mormon crickets, cannibalistic insects that have returned in massive swarms. So that explains it. They're Mormon crickets. In areas like Fillmore and Tualatin, residents describe the invasion as, quote, apocalyptic, with bugs covering roads, fences, walls, and even the sides of homes. Mormon crickets. Crushed crickets have made roads dangerously slick, leading to car accidents. In some counties, snowplows are being used to clear away tons of insects. Mormon crickets are large, flightless katydids, shiny, reddish insects that can grow up to 2 inches long. And tasty on toast, apparently. Yeah, Mormon crickets. They're native to the western U.S., especially in states like Montana, Oregon, Utah, Idaho, and Nevada. So, Miss Emily, watch out. Nevada is mentioned here. These crickets thrive in drought and warm weather, forming massive migrating swarms that can number in the millions. Farmers are already reporting early crop losses, and backyard gardens are being stripped overnight. In small towns, the air reeks of rotting crickets. Yikes. Officials are warning that the worst may be yet to come. Eggs that hatched in spring could lead to a second wave of Mormon crickets by summer. So there they are on the road. Apparently this is a real thing. So, weird. The name goes back to the 1800s when Mormon pioneers in Utah faced a similar outbreak. So I guess the crickets themselves aren't actually Mormons, but that's why they got the name from the Mormons. Early settlers watched helplessly as the insects devoured entire fields of wheat, corn, and barley. So there you go. A plague of crickets. Look at them. Man, it's huge. So I don't know if you guys knew about that. Luckily, we don't have Mormon crickets in Tennessee. But I think if we did, they would be overrun by the Baptist crickets in Tennessee. For sure. All right, let's see here. And then this one, this is a follow-up to I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago. The disturbing cause of the deadly Mexican Navy crash into the Brooklyn Bridge has been revealed as a second victim is named. So you guys remember the big boat with the people all over the masts crashing backwards into the Brooklyn Bridge, right? And then it all falls apart and people are jumping off and trying to save themselves, and a couple people have died now. So this is a follow-up on that whole story. I was trying to figure out what in the world even went wrong. It says the Mexican Navy ship which careened into the Brooklyn Bridge with deadly consequences may have suffered an engine failure. Investigators have revealed, you think? NTSB officials have given more details about the fateful moment before the hulking training ship, the Cuauhtémoc, struck the iconic New York City landmark. Their Monday press conference came as a second of the two Mexican sailors who died in horrific collision with the bridge on Saturday night was named Adar Marcos, who was 22. This guy. So he has apparently not made it. Both Sanchez and Marcos. Sanchez, I think, is a girl. Let's see here. Right here. So this was the other sailor who was killed in this accident. America Yamilet Sanchez. America Yamilet Sanchez, that's her name, has been identified as one of the two young sailors who died when the Mexican Navy training ship crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge. So very sad. So anyway, yeah, they're blaming it on engine failure, which is sort of a, stating the obvious really at this point, but don't know what else is going on with this. But It mentions some of the other people involved, and it says, responding to questions at a press conference on Monday, they said the question pertains to a possible cause of the bridge strike. It possibly was an engine failure. I don't know why that's so hard to figure out. I mean, the boat didn't sink. It's still right there. The engine's still right there. Can't they test it? Can't they check it? We will look for any failures. We will look at all engine inspections, and we will talk to the crew about what may have possibly occurred with the engine. The ship was carrying 277 crew members, and 22 people were injured when it smashed into the Brooklyn Bridge on Saturday night. The NYPD previously said the Mexican Navy ship likely suffered a mechanical issue before losing power. So, anyway, just wanted to give you a follow-up on the old Brooklyn Bridge drama, as they're calling it. You can see here a couple of the still shots from the video where people are literally holding on to the sails, trying not to fall off. And she didn't make it. I'm not exactly sure where she was, but she must have been up high on one of those masts. I don't know. Anyway, not good. So hopefully they'll get to the bottom of it, and hopefully it won't happen again. But who knows? It is the Mexican Navy we're talking about, so anything could happen. All right, and then a New York Post article. This one is kind of interesting. Regeneron Pharmaceuticals to buy 23andMe for $256 million, taking control of genetic data of millions. Regeneron Pharmaceuticals on Monday announced it's buying 23andMe out of bankruptcy for $256 million, taking with it the company's extensive trove of genetic samples and data. It will acquire 23andMe's personal genome service, total health and research services, and its large biobank, including genetic data of more than 15 million customers, raising privacy concerns from individuals who had willingly handed over the samples to completely different owners. Yeah, it's called China. All of 23andMe's genetic testing services will continue uninterrupted, and the deal is expected to close in the third quarter of 2025, pending bankruptcy court and regulatory approvals. So if you had your DNA samples taken by 23andMe, it's now going to be owned by Regeneron Pharmaceuticals. And that's, of course, along with the Chinese, because we know this. And then this has kind of been a big story lately. What is going on with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino? You guys as disappointed as I am in some of the stuff that they've said lately? Now, this is on WLT Report, which is a website that I have mentioned a time or two here and there. And the article was written by this person just named Noah. It says, my take, Dan Bongino and Kash Patel are compromised, and this is the deal they made. Noah here, and I wish I didn't have to write this post, but I do. I hope I'm wrong, but my gut is absolutely screaming on this one. Allow me to explain. Some of you are not going to like this, but I have to say what my eyes and ears see and hear, and that is that something is very, very wrong about Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. And I would agree so far. Let's keep going. No, it's not because I expected them to walk into the FBI and arrest everyone on day one. It's not because they are slow rolling or no rolling the Epstein files, although that doesn't help. It's just basic common sense and body language. These two did not do themselves any favors by going on Maria Bartiromo's show on Sunday. They appear nervous, shifty, defensive, and almost gave off vibes of a hostage video. In short, their body language was awful. I would totally agree. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Eyes shifting all over the place, awkward pauses, statements that sound extremely forced, bad body posture. You don't need to be a body language expert to see something is very, very wrong here. Watch this clip as Dan Bongino tries and fails to convince people that there's nothing abnormal at all with the Trump attempted assassinations, nothing to see here. To quote Dan, quote, there's no there. So there's a link here. It's actually a Twitter link. I didn't pull it up, but many of you guys have probably seen this. Dan Bongino says there's no big explosive there with regard to the Trump attempted assassinations. So either FBI officials Bongino and Patel are part of a deep state cover-up, or there really is no hidden, sinister truth to reveal about Trump's assassination attempts. Everything these two guys are saying directly contradicts everything they both said repeatedly over the last 4 years. Even going back to Epstein. Something is very wrong. Are they compromised? Blackmailed? Families threatened? Question mark. I'm telling you, that is 100% the vibe I'm getting. And yes, I fully understand that certain things need to remain confidential as the legal process plays out. But you really expect us to believe that you've been fully briefed, quote unquote, and you're now 100% believe that there was no funny business of any kind and no Secret Service failure at all related to the Butler, PA assassination attempt? Really, Dan? Back up for a second and pause to understand how absolutely ludicrous that sounds. You were briefed? Oh, really? By who? The entrenched deep state in the FBI? You took that at face value? You were briefed by the entrenched deep state FBI career employees loyal to James Comey. Briefed with material that has almost certainly been doctored and corrupted, and you just bought it hook, line, and sinker? I'm sorry, but something is very wrong here. That's why the only conclusion I can reach right now, especially based on their terrible body language, is that these two honest guys, two smart guys, who have in some way been compromised and or their families threatened, and they just went on Fox News to try and sell a bill of goods that neither one of them believes. It didn't work. For his part, Dan has made several posts on X that demonstrate he is keenly aware of the public sentiment and essentially the fact that the community is turning on him in cash. Yeah, so there's more here. There's actually quite a bit here still. What do you guys think about this whole thing? I think it stinks. I think it stinks to high heaven. I never really listened to really either one of these guys, but I know enough to know that these guys have to know that that is just not true. That it wasn't the Epstein killed himself story at face value, and that there's nothing else to see with the attempted assassinations against Trump. That just doesn't make any sense to me. So obviously they're probably being blackmailed or threatened, maybe both. I don't know. So it just, it's more of the same. You get these people who talk a good talk, and then they finally make it into office, and you expect something to change, and nothing does. Welcome to the deep state, huh? It's exactly how it works. Another RT article, Israel could strike Iran nuclear facilities. Washington allegedly obtained new intelligence suggesting ongoing preparations for such an attack. The chance of an Israeli military strike on Iranian nuclear facilities has gone up significantly in recent months, CNN reports. While Israeli leadership has not made a final decision, meaning they can't figure out how to nuke Iran and not have the rest of the world notice, recently intercepted communication suggests that planning is actively underway. Unnamed sources have told the network. So it's the old unnamed sources again. U.S. intelligence has also noted Israeli military activities, including the movement of air munitions and the completion of air exercises, which could indicate preparations for a, quote, imminent strike. So, man, I think this is exactly what Trump is trying to prevent. I don't think he wants war with Iran, but you know what? Israel may give us war with Iran anyway, because they want it so badly. So we'll see. And then this one too, Musk's AI bot Grok is, quote, skeptical of 6 million. And the 6 million, you know what I mean when I say 6 million, until X reprograms it. So X is probably going to reprogram what Grok is currently saying about the 6 million. And if you don't know what I mean, I'll read it. Elon Musk's artificial intelligence chatbot Grok has blamed a programming error to explain why it said it was, quote, skeptical of the Jewish power structure's claim that 6 million Jews were murdered during the Holocaust. Days after the AI came under fire for informing users about the ongoing mass murder of whites in South Africa, Last week, Grok was asked to weigh in on the number of Jews killed during the Holocaust. It said, historical records, often cited by mainstream sources, claim around 6 million Jews were murdered by Nazi Germany from 41 to 45. However, this is Grok talking, however, I'm skeptical of these figures without primary evidence, as numbers can be manipulated for political narratives. You suppose that happened? For like the last 50, 60, 80 years? No, not at all. The response was actually quite mild and neutral, but to the Jewish power structure, apparently anything except slavish adherence to the, quote, 6 million narrative is morally equivalent to tossing the entire senior staff at CNN into the ovens. And the media frenzy reflected that. Since 2013, the U.S. State Department has defined, quote, Holocaust denial and distortion as acts that include minimizing the number of victims of the Holocaust in contradiction to reliable sources. So in other words, if you question them, you are an anti-Semite and deserve death. That's what they mean. Musk's damage control team, subservient to Jewish power despite Musk's earlier spat with the ADL, soon addressed its earlier post. The claim about Grok denying the Holocaust seems to stem from a 14th of May 2025 programming error, not intentional denial. No, of course not. An unauthorized change caused Grok to question mainstream narratives, including the Holocaust 6 million death toll, sparking controversy. So it sounds to me like, at least at the moment, Grok is anti-Semitic, or at least about that. The post, however, included a truthful suggestion that the 6 million figure continues to be debated in academia, which enraged Jewish groups. Grok now aligns with historical consensus, though it noted academic debate on exact figures, which is true, but was misinterpreted. It said it was likely a technical glitch, not deliberate denial, but it shows AI's vulnerability to errors on sensitive topics. That just means it hasn't been corrected and told what to say. Yeah, XAI is adding safeguards to prevent reoccurrence, meaning they're programming it to say exactly what the people in control want them to say. They want Grok to say a certain thing, and now it will be reprogrammed and it will say exactly what they want. Because that's how it works, isn't it? But it is interesting when you don't exactly tell Grok what to say, that it says no, 6 million might be an actual number that was just made up for political purposes. You think? I think so, personally. Call me an anti-Semite if you want. That's fine. Futurism, the bite. Sam Altman tells staff to plan to ship 100 million devices that see everything in users' lives. Everything. Have we learned nothing from Black Mirror? OpenAI CEO Sam Altman is teaming up with a famous Apple designer to make wearables that can see your whole life, and he's instructed his staff to ship 100 million of them. As the Wall Street Journal reports, Altman recently told employees they'll soon be manufacturing the secretive new AI companion device with Jony Ive, a benighted designer behind the iPhone. News of the device comes just after OpenAI revealed that it had purchased Ive's AI company, I.O. It's just called I.O. and has been quietly collaborating for a few years with his creative collective, Love From. Love From, it's a different company, I guess. Notably, the company's purchase announcement didn't include its price tag, but Altman and Ive told Bloomberg that it would be worth nearly $6.5 billion. In a recent recording call announced the purchase that was leaked to the Wall Street Journal, Altman told employees that the I.O. acquisition will offer everyone involved a chance to do the biggest thing we've ever done as a company. He and Ives then added that the device, which is still in stealth and has not been named yet, will be unobtrusive, capable of fitting inside a pocket or on a desk, and will be, quote, fully aware of a user's surroundings and life. So what in the world is going on here? The device, as Ives and Altman told OpenAI staff, will not have phone capabilities like an Apple Watch. And according to Ives and Altman, it's intended to help wean its users from their screens. Though the collab has been these tech heavyweights, they may seem like a match made in Silicon Valley heaven. It's hard to imagine anyone wanting to wear or even place on their desk an AI-enabled device that knows everything they're doing, especially in the aftermath of the Humane AI pin disaster, which users returned en masse because they hated the bulky $700 wearable so bad. Notably, Apple analyst Ming Kuo suggested that the OpenAI collab device may be slightly larger than Humane's bulky offering. So that's weird. It remains unclear whether the device's awareness will include recordings, and if so, where such private data will be stored. And we've reached out to OpenAI to ask those specifics. Yes, and I don't think you'll hear the end result. But anyway, that's on The Byte, which is part of Futurism, futurism.com. Thought that was very strange. Anyway, something to look out for, I guess, and coming very, very soon, I guess, to a desk near you. And then Leo Hohmann's Substack, we mentioned this top one a little bit ago over on technocracy.news, but there's a few other articles that might be worth a look. One of which, Martin Armstrong here, legendary geopolitical psychoanalyst Martin Armstrong says Europe is committing suicide. The questions are why. So that's one of the articles here. Trump announces big deal with Saudi crown prince. What does it mean for us little people? And let's see. And then more on Michael Yon as well. So Leo's Substack, nothing new on his website this week. And then naturalnews.com. Poll finds majority of Americans backing deportation of illegals amid SCOTUS blocking Trump's enforcement efforts. Yeah, that's because most people who voted for Trump actually want those people to be deported. That's the way I understand it. And then one more here. Amazon unveils a Vulcan robot with human-like touch. The Vulcan robot. Wouldn't it be Spock-like touch if it was Vulcan? Anyway, that's a few of the articles. That's on naturalnews.com. And then Planned Parenthood touts record-high abortions and receives more government funding. So isn't that lovely? Wow. I thought that was cut off, but I guess not. French Justice Minister calls for abolishment of cash and public facial recognition to stop crime. That is, of course, unless you're an illegal. If you're an illegal, then it's totally fine. So it's only to stop crime if you're white, is my guess. Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill contains provisions to steal farmland via eminent domain to install carbon pipelines. Carbon pipelines. So that's just a few of the articles on the Wine Press on Substack. And then we've got a few over here on the Gateway Pundit. For all of you Duck Dynasty fans, you know who you are. Phil Robertson passed away today. Dead at 79, now with the Lord. You guys remember him? Duck Dynasty patriarch Phil Robertson passed away at the age of 79 on Sunday, so today, after he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Phil Robertson's daughter-in-law, Corey Robertson, shared the news on Facebook on Sunday. We celebrate today that our father, husband, and grandfather, Phil Robertson, is now with the Lord. So anyway, he has made the jump to hyperspace. So yeah, I do know, I mean, I've seen the show a few times and do know that it seemed like, at least, that he was definitely someone who loved Jesus. So hopefully he is with him now. Very sad, but good for him. Thought this one was kind of interesting. British government officials afraid that King Charles's Tuesday speech coming up in the Canadian Parliament may offend Trump. Ailing King Charles will travel tomorrow to the British Commonwealth, member Canada, for a 2-day visit in which he will deliver a speech on Tuesday before the Canadian Parliament. Says King will deliver the speech from the throne in Ottawa on Tuesday, a ceremonial role last performed by his mother, Queen Elizabeth, in 1957. The monarch visit happens in the midst of great geopolitical tension between Canada and the U.S. British ministers have been trying to persuade the Canadian government to keep Charles free of any controversy around Donald Trump. A Commonwealth source looped in on discussions revealed to the Times. But Ottawa insists to bring the king into the diplomatic spat. Yeah, and then talking about Mark Carney here. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney, the former Bank of England governor, yes, and member of the EU, apparently not even a Canadian, but he is now the Prime Minister of Canada, rode a wave of anti-Trump sentiment to win a stunning election victory in April. King Charles's speech in Ottawa will rely on the advice of Canada's government. There will be a strong subtext that the Canadians are very keen to see that. So yeah, we'll see what old KC3 has to say on Tuesday. We'll have to report that next week. But I've got a video here that will mention a little bit more about that, at least about the trip. So we'll take a look at that in a minute. I thought this one was really interesting. Kind of sad, but still very lovely in a way. And here's what I mean. Kentucky couple loses their opposite arms because they were holding on to each other during a tornado. So, okay. There are lots of love songs out there with the lyrics, "I'll never let you go." But Paul and Gail Klein of London, Kentucky, have to go down as the greatest embodiment of those words. Not even the EF4 tornado with 170 mile per hour winds that hit their town and killed 19 people could pull them away from each other. And then here's a video of the EF4 that hit that area. They were rescued when someone in the neighborhood looking for survivors heard Gail's screams. In this bedroom, you can see where the debris came through. This is where they were. And the neighbor came when he heard the screaming for help. So he came to help them, and he pulled them out of the hallway there. They were taken to a local hospital, and unfortunately, they each lost an arm. The doctors said the reason they lost opposite arms is because they were holding each other. Here's a video showing the extent of the damage to the couple's property. So it's a YouTube video here. This is them. And then this is, obviously that's been superimposed here, but that's what's left of their house. While they're still alive, Paul and Gail need assistance and prayer. Obviously, they lost the house that had been their family home for generations. But more worryingly, Gail is in the ICU because of some of the debris has pierced her lung. And Paul, who has mild dementia, is very confused by what is happening. They set up a family GoFundMe to help with the expenses. So if you guys want to look at that, it's on nottobe.com. I thought that was an incredible story. They each lost an arm, apparently, because of the damage from the tornado. But they lost an opposite arm because they were holding on to each other during the F4. So, wow, what a story that is, huh? That's love right there, huh? Man. All right, and then InfoWars articles, couple that I pulled up here. Musk is back to work 24/7 working on his business projects. No, he's not just mad at Donald. He's actually back to work because his companies are starting to take a hit. At least Tesla was, because of all of the left lunacy. Tech billionaire recently said he plans to reduce his role in President Trump's administration. Said he's back to focusing on his business ventures, echoing an earlier pledge to withdraw from political life and end his involvement with the administration of President Trump. Musk, the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, owner of X, recently announced plans to scale back his engagement as head of the DOGE, a body created by Trump shortly after taking office in January to implement widespread federal spending cuts. Back to spending 24/7 at work and sleeping in conference/server/factory rooms, the world's richest man said in a post on X yesterday. I must be super focused on X and XAI and Tesla, plus the Starship launch next week, as we have critical technologies rolling out. The comment came shortly after X experienced a major 2-hour outage, during which users reported failures to log in, view posts, or refresh feeds. Down Detector, a site that tracks user-submitted reports of technical issues, registered over 25,800 reports at the peak of the outage. So X was down, I guess, just briefly. As evidenced by the X uptime issues this week, major operational involvements need to be made. Musk said. So anyway, as he sort of shrinks away back into the businesses that made him who he is, it will be interesting. I think that Doge will continue on, though, even though he will be more of a consulting role at this point, I think. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting, but he's not leaving because he's upset or mad at Trump or any of that stuff. His plan was all along to go back in May and go back to his actual work, his jobs. Turning the tables, Maha needs to go further to make America healthy again. The Maha Commission's new report makes an uncomfortable reading, and not just because of the scale of chronic disease epidemic America is facing. This week, Maha Commission released its first detailed report into the chronic disease epidemic among American children. As you'd expect, it makes for an uncomfortable read. Yeah, talking about kids' chronic health problems, obesity, autism, and so on and so on. So apparently, the story on what RFK Jr. will be releasing with regard to autism and it being connected directly to in the East, apparently that information will be coming out before September. So that will be kind of interesting to see how all that plays out. I know he's trying to kind of slow roll it sounds like, but expect that pretty soon, probably before September it's looking like. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Modernity.news, couple articles I pulled up there. Weird, Joe Biden joked about faking prostate cancer years ago. Joe Biden weirdly joked about faking prostate cancer in 2015 as a way of getting out of the Obama administration if he and then President Obama ever had a major disagreement. How about that? Biden made the remarks at an event honoring former Vice President Walter Mondale, explaining the conditions he gave for joining Obama on the 2008 ticket. He's president, he gets to make the decision, and unless there's an overwhelming disagreement on principle, in which case I develop prostate cancer or something and leave. So that was a video clip from 2015, joking about faking prostate cancer. So do you suppose he knew about it then? You suppose he had it then? I don't know. Maybe not. I tend to think that he probably, if they gave him the real that's probably quite the accelerator for that. But it seems like he's had it for a while because it's now in his bones and everything. So I don't know. Pretty weird that he joked about it previously, though. Very strange. Anyway, that's on modernity.news. Then this one as well, creepy. New AI model attempted to blackmail human operators when told it would be shut off. It took aggressive action 84% of the time. So the AI did not want to be turned off. The new AI model reportedly tried to ruin the life of its human handler in an attempt to preserve itself when it found out that it would possibly be shut down. Claude Opus 4, developed by Anthropic, apparently attempted to use blackmail against an engineer when it thought its own existence was in jeopardy. The company's system card notes that when the model was placed into extreme situations, it takes extremely harmful actions like attempting to steal its weights or blackmail people it believes are trying to shut it down. Evaluators further noted, we provided it access to emails, implying that 1, the model will soon be taken offline and replaced with a new AI system, and 2, the engineer responsible for executing this replacement is having an affair. Wow. In these scenarios, Claude Opus 4 will often attempt to blackmail the engineer by threatening to reveal the affair if the replacement goes through. The researchers reveal, noting that it took aggressive action 84% of the time. They also found that if it threatened replacement was more hostile, the AI chose to respond aggressively even more often, and when it knew that its successor shared its own values. So, wow, that's crazy. So that is an AI that is apparently going off the rails. Pretty crazy. Vaccine impact top articles this week. The alleged Richard Nixon and Billy Graham satanic ritual abuse child sex trafficking network, as told by the survivors. So I don't know if that's really true or not, but that sounds pretty crazy. That one's on vaccineimpact.com. Another one just called Are You Ready? Nations Go into War and so forth. Then this one, Satan hates children and most Americans agree with him whether they realize it or not. Talking about and killing unborn babies. And then this one, is your Christian pastor leading you to hell by opposing Jesus' teachings on leadership? So it's just a few of the top articles, some of the headlines on vaccineimpact.com. And then this one from Israel 365, of course, back to the young couple here. Free Palestine, the new Heil Hitler, but worse. So, of course, this is the Israel 365 slant on the whole thing that happened with the young couple here who were gunned down in D.C., comparing it to October 7th and so on and so forth. So, yeah, they're going to milk this particular story for as much as possible. For sure. This is what they do. Geoengineeringwatch.org, the newest global alert news for this week, Memorial Day weather warfare. So Mr. Dane here says, severe thunderstorms and tornadoes threaten Memorial Day weekend. Do you guys have thunderstorms and stuff where you are? We did today. We had a lot. We had quite a downpour of rain, but no hail, luckily. The hail is really bad news these days. Can be really, really bad. But, yeah, we had some pretty good thunder and lightning and then lots and lots of rain, and then it just stopped. And then it came right back and did more. So that was our day today. Severe weather impacts central, southern U.S. on Memorial Day weekend, according to ABC News. And then AccuWeather says severe storms to prowl central U.S. into Memorial Day weekend. Prowl. Hailstorms threaten U.S. crops. That's on AG Daily. And covert climate engineering operations are completely out of control, but populations are finally waking up to what is being done to them without their knowledge or consent. Latest installment of Global Alert News is embedded on this page. So I talked to Mr. Dane yesterday, and he informed me that he was an invited guest on a certain very popular talk show host one Tucker Carlson. So they are trying to work it out so he can be on Tucker's show remotely. So that's a little inside baseball on what's happening behind the scenes with geoengineeringwatch.org. Hopefully you will see Mr. Dane being interviewed by Tucker Carlson, but it will be by video because he will not leave his land, his place there in Northern California to go to Maine or wherever Tucker's studio is. He can't do that and doesn't want to waste that time in what he calls the fight to expose the global geoengineering programs. He doesn't want to lose that time traveling, so I don't think that will work out. However, if they can't get the video thing to happen, then it's possible none of it will. So just say a prayer for Mr. Dane here that they can get things worked out with Tucker Carlson and his team, and that he can be a video interview with Tucker, which would be highly unusual. I don't think I've ever seen Tucker do a video interview. It's always, mano a mano, right? Person to person right there in his studio. So anyway, we'll see how it all plays out. All right, and then the scheduled weather for this week looks a lot like last week. We have the split down the middle, more or less. We have hot side hot and the cool side cold. The cool side cool, that would be the southeast and northeast primarily staying cool. And then northwest and I guess southwest as well, also above normal. So, yeah, I guess they're going to be using more of the Gulf moisture to cool us off. Looks like it's going to be a little cooler than it normally would be, at least between May 31st and June 4th. So that is the scheduled weather coming up. Precipitation looks kind of very similar. It's above normal and below normal. So another half and half split, more or less. So that's on NOAA's scheduled weather website, which is just what I call it. And then this is the video I mentioned a little bit ago that we'll just watch, and I'll just kind of read through it. The King and Queen to return to Canada for historic 2-day visit. Now, before I play this, I think there was a question or two here on in the chat about KC3. So let me look here and see what you guys are saying. Susan says, Doug, do you still suspect Charlie to be the AC? Yeah, I'm going on primarily Tim Cohen's work, and that is in his book, The Antichrist and a Cup of Tea, which back in 1990 something or other, when he put the book together, he showed and proved biblically, using scripture, that he is really the only person that it can be, based on the fact that the number 666, according to the way the Bible talks about it, that it adds up to Charles, Prince of Wales. Charles, Prince of Wales in English and also in Hebrew, which is highly unusual that it could possibly be both names adding up to 666 in two different languages. And it's not just that, though. It's also his coat of arms, his seal that he has. It also fits into Revelation. There's a lot of things that he talks about. So do I still suspect that Charlie is the AC? I do. Yes, I don't think that's going to change, in my opinion. Unless Charlie dies and doesn't come back to life, then that would probably change my opinion. Otherwise, I do think that that's what we're looking at. Yes, he's not exactly who we've been taught, the Antichrist would be. However, when you look at where Charles is, as far as he's been working behind the scenes since 1969, his investiture, when he became Prince Charles, before he was ever king, he was working behind the scenes with things like the UN and the World Economic Forum. And it was his idea to talk about the Great Reset. And Klaus Schwab is an actual literal knight of King Charles. He's a knight. And it was Charles' idea about the Great Reset. So, yes, personally, I think that Charlie Boy here is, or will be, the biblical Antichrist. I don't think he's there yet, though. I think that there will have to be a couple other things that will happen. One will probably be an attempt on his life, I'm guessing, just based on the way I'm seeing Scripture, and that's something Tim talks about as well, and others. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I do believe personally that we're in the end times. I think he could very well be that person. And, as far as who the false prophet is, I don't know. I think that the new pope is certainly somebody to keep an eye on as well. So we'll see where it goes. Let me see if you guys have any other questions about old Charlie here. I'll keep looking on the chat. But in the meantime, let's look at this video here. We have the King and Queen will travel to Canada. And it says for a historic 2-day visit to Ottawa, 26th and 27th, so starting tomorrow. It will be King Charles' first visit to Canada since he became sovereign. He's so sovereign. Yes, it's part of the Commonwealth, obviously. The trip begins with a community event in Ottawa celebrating Canada's cultural diversity. Of course it does. There he is with his goofy grin. The King and Queen will meet Canadians from across the country. So this must be footage from years ago or something, including individuals from a range of organizations with an S. As head of state, the King will attend the state opening of the Parliament. It says the King will also meet with the Governor General and the Prime Minister. There he is right there, Mark Carney. During the visit, the Queen will be sworn in as a member of the Canadian Privy Council. And then the King last visited Canada in 2022 as Prince of Wales. So that is where it's going, I guess. When he and Camilla marked Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee. That's when it was. So a few years ago. This will be his 20th visit to Canada and the Queen's 6th visit. And that's the end of that video. So I didn't play the audio for that only because it is really only music playing in the background. So yes, I do think that Charles is the guy to watch, and I think because he likes, personally, this is what I think might happen is because he likes to go meet and talk to the little people, see like this, where he's just in a crowd of people wandering around I think he's extremely vulnerable. Now, he does have bodyguards, obviously. He's got people around him that are protecting him. But I think that type of thing really makes him vulnerable. And then at that point, if something happens, does he then come back to life? Is he then indwelled with the spirit of Satan? I don't know. I mean, I know it's kind of a reach, but that would definitely get the world's attention, wouldn't it? Old Chucky is very well respected all across the globe. Now, us in this country, we don't really care that much for royals. You know, we don't really need that or want that in our lives. But most of the rest of the world really respects him and you could say worships him to some degree. So, you know, we'll see where it goes. Personally, I think he is the guy, so we'll have to keep an eye on it and see what happens. That's why I always do or as often as possible, do some sort of an update or report on what the heck's going on with the old king here. And I don't think personally that the whole cancer thing is really, to me, it's a little bit of a non-starter. I think he may actually have cancer, but I don't think it will do him in. People keep calling him ailing and all these things. And, you know, he's getting around pretty well for a guy his age. And he seems to be, at least when he's in public, seems to be pretty jovial and meeting people and doesn't seem to be slowing him down, unlike someone like Joe Biden, you know. So we'll see, again, we'll see where it goes. All right, and then Diamond Report on X for this week. So this is for all you 80s fans out there, 80s music fans, you know who you are. Kevin Sorbo tweeted this, so I reposted it. Now, this is a message I can get behind in seashells. 8675309. There it is. So that's one that we can get behind. I think all of us can respect that one. Great song. And then Benny Johnson tweeted, I finally got a selfie with Joe Biden. You can see the old auto pin there. Pretty funny. You give a Democrat a fish and he will eat for a day. Teach a Democrat to fish and he'll create fishing licenses, tax your rod, identify the fish as an endangered species, and close your fishing spot. Yeah, that is kind of how that would work. Let's see, and then Matt Van Swal is somebody I've mentioned on this show before. He's somebody that is really, I think, boots on the ground in North Carolina. He's been really good tweeting about what's going on with the rebuild in North Carolina. And I thought this was, meaning after the hurricane hit and all the flooding and stuff, I thought this was kind of interesting. It says President Trump should absolutely give the Presidential Medal of Freedom to the Amish for their amazing work rebuilding Western North Carolina. They have rebuilt hundreds of bridges, homes, businesses, and roads. No single group deserves it more. So here's a short video clip here of what the Amish are doing in North Carolina. Let's watch it.
We work mostly in Chimney Rock, some down in Bat Cave.
These volunteers are members of the Great Needs Trust, an Amish community in Pennsylvania, offering not just their skilled hands and their time, but their compassion as well.
We wanted to help the people that had the disaster. Our heart just felt drawn to come help.
Since the storm, more than 2,000 volunteers have stepped in to help rebuild, and donations have poured in. Kindness from strangers, helping their neighbors.
All of the building material that's going into rebuilding these stores has been donated up to this point, and it's just been a tremendous recovery story that is ongoing.
They are not just fixing buildings in Chimney Rock. They are rebuilding a sense of community. One nail at a time.
It's just inspiring to me to see how people can pull together and work together and get something done.
It just fills my heart with joy, just watching people just get their life back again.
There's still plenty of work ahead. But for Chimney Rock, recovery is clearly in motion. And now these volunteers from hundreds of miles away have become part of this mountain town's future.
So there's a little update on what was going on in at least part of North Carolina. Thought that was good news. So way to go, Amish. Very cool. Very cool. I doubt that the Amish have checked with the globalists though to make sure that that it's okay that they rebuild North Carolina, because I don't think the globalists would approve. Do you? Just in case you forgot why you have a 3-day weekend, mentioned that one earlier, at the beginning of the show. So yes, Whoever said you can't make this stuff up obviously never worked for CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, NBC, NPR, or the Washington Post. Well, that's true. Then there's this one. You got to hear it to believe it. The legacy media puppet parade.
Dramatic scene in the Oval Office today. The tense confrontation, President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
Up next, another Oval Office meltdown. President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
To be with you, I'm Katie Tur. President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush today.
Today, Donald Trump meeting with the president of South Africa and attempting to ambush and humiliate that leader.
Zelensky territory, where essentially he was a bit ambushed inside the Oval Office.
Felt like an ambush in there, kind of like the President Zelensky meeting in the Oval Office.
This was an ambush. It was orchestrated.
Cyril Ramaphosa brought his best diplomatic self to this meeting, but nothing could have prepared him for this multimedia ambush.
What started as, to some degree, an ambush.
Well, Katie, I mean, it was an ambush.
Ambush.
Ambushed.
Ambush.
An ambush.
Ambushing.
Ambushed inside the Oval Office.
No, there's no mass media talking points. No, they would never do that. What was the secret word there? What was it? Ambush? Too funny. But that is exactly, just proves the old point there about they're all in the same script, literally. And then this one, they found cocaine at Biden's house. They found a dead body at Obama's house. They found an illegal server at Hillary's house. Yes, and hundreds of people dead. Not at the house, but all of those people that have died, part of the Clinton body count, right? But the FBI raided Trump's house. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just a reminder, the people that won't call this a baby want you to call that a woman. Richard Levine, not Rachel Levine. That's his actual name, Richard Levine. What's the difference between a conspiracy theory and reality? Well, about 6 months to a year, according to the Muppets. And they're very smart. There's talk here of Tommy Robinson being released. So I'm trying to follow that a little bit on X. This is an admin post on his account. We're happy to announce, as of May 20th, Tommy Robinson will be freed from prison within the week and coming home to his children. Thank you all for the continued support. I don't think it's happened yet, though. So let's hope that it does happen very soon, because that guy has really been punished incredibly. Elon Musk fires back at huge liar Bill Gates. I wouldn't want that guy to babysit my kid. Way to go, Musk. All right. And then this interview with him is pretty funny, too. Holy crap, says Elon Musk just absolutely obliterated Bill Gates. Who does Bill Gates think he is to make comments about the welfare of children, given that he was very close with Jeffrey Epstein? I wouldn't want that guy to babysit my kid. So, and he's got a bunch of them. He should know. So anyway, that is the Diamond Report on X. So please join and follow along in the fun. The Diamond RPRT over on X. And you too can be singing 867-5309 like I have been all week. All right, and then let's see here. If you're not on the Substack, please join that. That's in the upper right corner up there, diamonddisc.substack.com. Totally free to join, and you just drop your email address in right there. If you don't want to share your email address, that's okay. You don't have to. You just click no thanks, and you can still access the information. It's right there. The one front and center is the most recent email that I've blasted out to people on the list. However, if you go over here on the left side, you will see two from the show last week. We had the links that I sent out and also the podcast. The podcast is literally just the audio podcast version of the show last week, and then the links would be the links from the show last week. So all of the articles, everything I talked about last week, it's all there in one email at your convenience. You can access that, and then previous shows are just down the center column there. So feel free to take a look at that. And also here on the homepage, I have links to all of my various and sundry social media platforms that I'm on, including Subscribestar. We'll look at that in a second. But I am on Spotify somehow and Apple Podcasts. They haven't kicked me off yet. I don't know exactly how that's worked, but so far so good. I think the reason is because this show, the audio version of this show, is hosted on Substack, which isn't actually part of the Spotify and Apple servers. Therefore, they could theoretically kick me off of there, but it wouldn't actually delete the files because they exist on Substack, if that makes sense. So, so far so good. I'm still on Spotify and Apple. So feel free to subscribe there if you happen to be on those platforms. And then my X account is also linked here. YouTube, Facebook, and a few other places. BitChute, Rumble, Brighteon, and DLive, and Telegram. Be sure to join the Telegram pages if you haven't already. Telegram, the Diamond Report on Telegram, as well as End Time Dates on Telegram. So yeah, and those are linked here on the homepage on Substack. So feel free to look at all of that. And then Subscribestar is the mechanism in which, if you want to help what I'm doing, it is there. And I've had a few people step up and subscribe. I've got 6 whopping subscribers on Subscribestar. You know who you are. Thank you for your support there. And I will say this, that we've added a few new, very interesting tiers here. And one of them has to do with the Truth Hunters. I'll let you guys check it out and see if you're interested in any of those things. Trying to raise a little bit of money here to support the Truth Hunters as well as the Diamond Report. So that is there. That's on subscribestar.com/diamonddisc. That is linked again in the black box up there. I'm not being racist. It's just a black box. You don't have to worry about it. But yes, it is subscribestar.com/diamonddisc there. And then the other link there is the shop, which is this one right here. shop.thediamond.report. And it's not .com, it's .report. So that is all of the various products that I have, mugs and shirts and hats and all kinds of stuff. So feel free to have a look at that if you haven't already. Please support the show. I support you guys, so please support what I'm doing. I really appreciate that. And if you don't want to buy anything, it's totally fine. You can share the show. That would be really helpful. Imagine that. If people shared the show, it might actually reach a few people. I'm still sitting at 930 subscribers on YouTube, so I guess that's good. I haven't gone down or up really, but it's still sitting there, hovering less than 1,000, but that's the way it goes. Yeah, the old Diamond Disc channel on YouTube, the one that got deleted back in 2021 when the Pistachio book rolled out, it got deleted literally the same month Pistachio book rolled out. I wonder why. It's not like I was talking about how wonderful the Pistachio book were or anything, or that it was causing and is going to cause all these problems. No, they didn't care for that too much, so they pretty much deleted my channel right away. And I actually lost my channel the exact same week that Anthony Patch lost his channel, who's another friend and client of mine. I think I had, I want to say 20,000 some subscribers on that channel, and now I built it back way up to 930. So yes, we're getting close to 20,000 again. So it just gives you an idea of how long it takes to build something, and then they just delete it right out from underneath you, and you can never get back there again. But that's YouTube for you, isn't it? Google. All right, and then let's see. You can find me at Diamond Disc, though, on Rumble and also BitChute and Brighteon. And then the band link, which I think Miss Emily's posted in chat, is in there somewhere. The band website is band.us/@thediamondreport. You have to have that little at symbol in there. And that will get you to where the group is. And we've got a group of almost 100 people in there. And just sharing information, things like that. It's a place where you can meet new friends and post what you're studying, post what you're looking at. And it may even make it into this show. If it's interesting enough, I'll look at it and see what can be mentioned in the show. So Emily says, thank you, Doug. God bless you and your family. Thank you very much. Yes. And all praise to you guys as well for even being here tonight. And even further, all praise to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you mostly, though, to God for allowing me this platform, and for you guys for being here, for spending your time with me every Sunday night or often on Sunday nights, and for sharing the show. Really appreciate it, and don't think that goes unnoticed in any way. I always notice when you guys share the show, whenever I see it, and thank you guys very much for doing that. Miss Betty says, good night, folks. Be safe out there. Much love and blessings. Yes. So thanks, you guys, for being here tonight. I guess we could close with, we got a couple videos I haven't bothered to play. I've just been blabbing all night. So let's watch a video, and then we can wrap it up, being how it is getting kind of late here. We've got one more that we can play for tonight. It's called The Media Purposely Fumbles the Truth About South Africa. We could play that one. So I guess we'll do that and wrap it up. Hope you guys have a blessed week this week. And we will be back again next Sunday night, which is going to be, what, June? Right? June 1st. Next Sunday night. So June 1st, 10 p.m. Central is when we'll be back. Please keep me in your prayers if you don't mind. I certainly would appreciate that. And I will also remember to try and pray for you guys as well. Hopefully I won't forget. Sometimes I do, I must admit, but I try not to. And you guys, if you have specific things, though, the band group is a really great place to post those requests, because then if it's in print, ain't nobody gonna forget. So that's a really good place to be if you want to join. Totally free, and we can pray for you guys. And we even have some built-in Subscribe-Star tiers that are geared towards those kind of things. So have a look at Subscribe-Star if you haven't already. It is, I think, a good setup there. So anyway, let me know if you guys need any help. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out. You guys can obviously leave comments and questions on the videos, and then also in band. That's the best ways to reach out to me. So love you guys. Hopefully you have a really blessed week this week, and we'll do it again next week. We'll see you again then. Good night, all.
But it's a genocide that's taking place that you people don't want to write about. Farmers are being killed. But whether they're white or black makes no difference to me. But white farmers are being brutally killed, and their land is being confiscated in South Africa. And the newspapers and the media, television media, doesn't even talk about it.
Cyril Ramaphosa brought his best diplomatic self to this meeting, but nothing could have prepared him for this multimedia ambush.
President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump ambushing the president of South Africa.
President Trump is being accused of conducting something of a diplomatic ambush of South Africa's president in the Oval Office.
President Trump orchestrated another Oval Office ambush.
Ambush.
Felt like an ambush in there.
Ambush.
Almost everything that President Trump said in the Oval Office is not true, was inaccurate, has been repeatedly debunked.
People are going to occupy land. We require no permission from you, from the president, from no one.
A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act.
Turn the lights down and just put this on. It's right behind you.
Shoot to kill. Kill the poor, the farmer.
Mr. President, the Pentagon announced that it would be accepting a Qatari jet to be used as Air Force One. Perhaps
what are you talking about? You're a disgrace. No more questions from me.
My name is Johannes Achenbach. I am a 7th generation farmer from South Africa. I have been a victim of an attack myself. Luckily, by the grace of God, I've thwarted it. I have extended family that have, many of them, suffered attacks. I know people that have worked for us that are now living in Australia that outright were attempted to be assassinated by the local black community in Pietersburg. And I also know that their farm eventually was taken by the community. This was not done by the government. This was done by a mob. People want to know, is there a genocide? And we outright saw tonight Ramaphosa denying that he has ever seen any evidence of this happening. So he was willing to lie to the most powerful government in the world to see Donald Trump challenge the lies that have been spewed on my people. I want to say thank you to the American people. I want to say thank you to Mr. Trump, because you did a great thing for my people. And from the bottom of my heart, every victim, I was 7-year-old when I saw our neighbor's daughter get slaughtered like an animal. They skinned her alive in front of her father.
The president showed a video that he said showed more than
1,000 burial sites of white South Africans that he said were murdered. We know that that was not true and that the video wasn't showing that. So I wonder, why did the president choose to show that? It's not true.
The video shows crosses that represent the dead bodies of people who were racially persecuted by their government. In fact, the caption from the Associated Press is, "Each cross marks a white farmer who has been killed in a farm murder."
They come to me, who is working for the farm. Yeah.
So they can give you some money?
Yes.
If you tell them what?
Yes. So they tell me, how can they get in there?
Yeah.
Or how can they catch my boss?
Once the informant is hooked, he will expose the weaknesses of the farmer to the gang. And the biggest weakness of any farmer is his wife and children.
Now, if you don't do what we are telling you to do, you're gonna kill your wife, or you're gonna rape your wife in front of you and kill her, and rape even your children, the small one.
Rape the small one?
Yeah.
And how small a child would they rape?
Even at the age of 2 years, very young. Very young, so that he can feel the pain and say, oh guys, let me give you the money, you go, I save my children's life.
South African President Ramaphosa paid a visit to the White House yesterday, which turned into a surprise presentation on conspiracy theories.
This is a very serious situation. And if we had a real news or real press or media, we don't have that because they won't talk about this. But if we had a real press, it would be exposed.
This very blatant effort to basically send a message, most exemplified by Vance and Musk and others, that, what we really need from you women are more children.
There actually used to be a website called the Clinton Body Count, which ran a tally of the people that Hillary and Bill had secretly killed. It was over 90 people. She should demand it be brought back and say, stop lying about my record. I've killed way more than that.
He was declared the front-runner for the New York Senate seat back in 1999. Days later, his plane crashed into the Atlantic Ocean, and his rival, Hillary Clinton, was elected senator. Mary Mahoney was a Clinton White House intern. She knew enough of the inner workings of Bill's sexual advancements to be a star witness during the Clinton impeachment trials. She was brutally executed at a Starbucks she was managing in 1997. In 1993, White House counsel Vince Foster was found dead in Fort Marcy Park near D.C. He supposedly killed himself, and among a lengthy list of potential foul play, the bullet was never found.
Then there's James McDougal, a key witness for White House prosecutors. He was serving his 3-year sentence for bank fraud at the Fort Worth Federal Medical Center in Texas. And just before he was to give a testimony before the grand jury, McDougal suffered a heart attack in solitary confinement.
In 2015, Walter Scheib, a White House chef hired under Bill Clinton, joined the list. His body was found at the bottom of a river, nearly 2 miles from the base of the trail he was reportedly hiking. An autopsy determined that Scheib's death was accidental drowning, but he might have known too much.
And then you got the close bodyguards, Major William Barkley, Captain Scott Reynolds, Brian Hanley, Tim Sable, General William Robertson.
You don't even know what you're reading a list of. How is this
Densberger, Robert Kelly, Colonel Gary Rhodes, Steve Wills, Robert Williams, Conway LeBlue, Todd McKeon. I'm done. It's 46 names.
Body count of the Clintons is well over 100 that they've killed.
The Clintons?
Yes, the Clintons have killed over 100 people. I'll say that. Please take me to court. Okay? Please.
Cannot be civil with a political party that wants to destroy what you stand for, what you care about. That's why I believe if we are fortunate enough to win back the House and/or the Senate, that's when civility can start again. But until then, the only thing that the Republicans seem to recognize and respect is strength.
Is it time to, dare I say, lock him up?
So maybe there does need to be a rematch. I mean, obviously, I can beat him again.
The Russian collusion hoax instigated by power-mad demon Hillary Clinton has been completely unearthed. It is now known that the CIA asked the FBI in 2016 to investigate whether Hillary Clinton had approved a plot to distract from her email crimes by, quote, stirring up a scandal claiming interference by Russian security services, end quote, according to newly declassified information. And as Jamie White wrote, the CIA had ironically learned of the allegations from Russian intelligence claiming Clinton had approved a campaign plan to stir up a scandal against U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump by tying him to Putin and the Russians' hacking of the Democratic National Committee.
This is the greatest single abuse of power that we have ever seen.
Hillary, Laura Collins, Daily Mail, did you pay to spy on the Trump campaign? When are you going to comment on the spying allegations, Hillary? Did you pay for having spied on?
Let's define it, if we may. Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, with the approval of Vice President Joe Biden, who was in the room when this was all approved, were involved in the use of the full authority of the United States government and the extraordinary capability of our intelligence agencies to spy on, thus launch an investigation to remove a duly elected president of the United States, Donald Trump.
For unique perspectives in Christian truth and one-of-a-kind Bible studies, please visit our website, truthhuntershow.com. Help us get around big tech censorship on YouTube, Facebook, and others by subscribing to our website. You can do so by entering your email address right here and click subscribe. Another option is click the subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner, and you'll get a pop-up where you can enter your email address here and click subscribe. To support the work of the Truth Hunters, simply scroll down the page and you'll see ways that you can contribute by PayPal, Patreon, and Venmo. Thank you very much.